The Diamond Prajnaparamita Sutra. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Sutra Opening Gatha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Diamond Prajnaparamita Sutra. 1. Convocation of the Assembly. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was staying in Anathapindika's park at Jeta Grove in Shravasti with a community of 1,250 bhikshus. When it was mealtime, the world-honored one put on his robe, took his alms bowl, went into the great city of Shravasti, going from house to house to beg for food. This done, he returned to his abiding place, finished the meal, put away his robe and bowl, washed his feet, arranged his seat, and sat down. 2. Subhuti requests the teaching. Then, the elder Subhuti, one of the most senior in the assembly, arose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, knelt on his right knee, with his palms joined, and respectfully addressed the Buddha. How remarkable, world-honored one, that the Tathagata is ever mindful of bodhisattvas, protecting and instructing them well. World-honored one, when good men and good women resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, how should they abide and how should they subdue their minds? The Buddha said, Excellent, excellent, Subhuti. It is as you have said, the Tathagata is ever mindful of bodhisattvas, protecting and instructing them well. Now, listen attentively and I will explain it for you. Good men and good women who resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi should thus abide and subdue their minds. The Venerable Subhuti said, Yes, world-honored one, we're listening with great anticipation. 3. Core of Mahayana practice. The Buddha said to Subhuti, the bodhisattvas and mahasattvas should thus subdue their minds. All the different types of sentient beings, whether they're born from eggs, from wombs, from moisture, or by transformation. Whether they have form or no form, whether they have thoughts or no thoughts, or neither thought nor non-thought, I will liberate them by leading them to nirvana without residue. When immeasurable, countless, infinite sentient beings have been liberated, ultimately, no sentient beings have been liberated. Why? Subhuti, if bodhisattvas have any notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan, they are not bodhisattvas. 4. Practice charity without attachment. Furthermore, Subhuti, in the practice of charity, bodhisattvas should abide in nothing whatsoever. That is, to practice charity without abiding in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas. Subhuti, bodhisattvas should practice charity this way, abiding in nothing. Why? If bodhisattvas practice charity without attachment, their merits are immeasurable. Subhuti, what do you think? Is the space in the eastern direction measurable? No, world-honored one. It is immeasurable. Subhuti, is any of the space in the southern, western, or northern directions, in the 4 intermediate directions above or below, measurable? No, world-honored one. Subhuti, the merits obtained by the bodhisattvas who practice charity without attachment are also immeasurable as such. Subhuti, bodhisattvas should thus abide by what is just taught. 5. The way to ultimately recognize the Buddha. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of his physical appearance? No, world-honored one. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by his physical appearance. Why? The Tathagata teaches that physical appearances are actually not physical appearances. The Buddha said to Subhuti, all appearances are illusory. To see that appearances are not appearances is to see the Tathagata. 6. True faith is precious. Subhuti addressed the Buddha. World-honored one, will there be any sentient beings who give rise to true faith upon hearing this teaching? The Buddha said to Subhuti, do not even say such a thing. After my passing in the last 500 years of the Dharma ending age, there will be those observing the precepts and cultivating merits who have the faith that these are words of truth. You should know that these people have not merely cultivated virtuous roots with 1 Buddha, 2 Buddhas, 3, 4, or 5 Buddhas. They have cultivated all kinds of virtuous roots with hundreds of thousands, even countless numbers of Buddhas. Upon hearing these passages, some will, in an instant, give rise to pure faith. Subhuti, the Tathagata knows and sees these beings perfectly, as they obtain such countless merits. Why? It is because these sentient beings are free from the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, and a lifespan. They are also free from the notions of dharmas and non-dharmas. Why? If the minds of these sentient beings have attachments, they are clinging to the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. If they have the attachments of dharmas, they're clinging to the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or lifespan. Why? If they have the attachment of non-dharmas, they're clinging to the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or lifespan. Therefore, one should not cling to dharmas or non-dharmas. For this reason, the Tathagata often teaches bhikshus, know that my dharma is like a raft. If even the dharma should be abandoned, how much more so the non-dharma? 7. No attainment, no teaching. Subhuti, what do you think? Has the Tathagata attained Anuttara Samyak Does he teach the Dharma? Subhuti said, as I understand the meaning of what the Buddha has said, there is no fixed Dharma called Anuttara Samyak and there is also no fixed Dharma that the Tathagata can teach. Why? The Dharma taught by the Tathagata cannot be grasped or explained. It is neither Dharma nor non-Dharma. How is this so? It is because all the saints and sages are distinguished by the unconditioned Dharma. 8. Merits explained. Merits obtained in accord with the Dharma. Subhuti, what do you think? If a person were to fill a trichilocosm with 7 jewels and give them away in charity, wouldn't the merits obtained by this person be great? Subhuti said, extremely great, world-honored one. Why? Even though the merits obtained is not in accord with the nature of merit, from the perspective of worldly charity, this giving is great. Therefore, the Tathagata says the merits obtained are great. The Buddha said, but if a person studies and follows even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra and teaches it to others, this person's merits exceed the former's. Why? Subhuti, all the Buddhas and the realization of Anuttara Samyak originate from the principles taught in the sutra. Subhuti, that which is called the Buddha Dharma is not the Buddha Dharma. Therefore, it is called the Buddha Dharma. 9. All forms are formless. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Strodapana have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Strodapana? Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. Why? Strodapana means stream enterer, but there is nothing to enter. Therefore, one who does not enter into form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma is called a Strodapana. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Sakradagamin have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Sakradagamin? Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. Why? Sakradagamin means to go and come one more time, but there is, in reality, no going and no coming. Therefore, one who neither goes nor comes is called a Sakradagamin. Subhuti, what do you think? Does an Anagamin have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Anagamin? Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. Why? Anagamin means non-returning, but there is, in fact, no such thing as non-returning. Therefore, one who does not abide in non-returning is called an Anagamin. Subhuti, what do you think? Does an Arhat have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Arhat? Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. Why? There is in reality no such thing as an Arhat. World-honored one, if an Arhat gives rise to the thought, I've attained the Arhathood, this means they are attached to the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or lifespan. World-honored one, you've said that of all people, I am the foremost in attaining the samadhi of non-contention, and the foremost arhat in being free from desires. But, world-honored one, I do not have the thought, I am an arhat who is free from desires. World-honored one, if I'd given rise to the thought, I have attained arhathood, you would not have said, Subhuti practices Aryana, abiding peacefully in non-contention. In reality, Subhuti abides in nothing at all. Therefore, Subhuti is called the one who abides peacefully in non-contention. 10. Adorn a Buddha world. The Buddha said to Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata studied under Dipamkara Buddha, did he receive any dharma? No, world-honored one. When the Tathagata studied under Dipamkara Buddha, he did not receive any dharma. Subhuti, what do you think? Does a bodhisattva adorn a world, making it a Buddha world? No, world-honored one. To adorn the world into a Buddha world is not to adorn the world. Therefore, it is called to adorn the world. So, Subhuti, bodhisattvas and mahasattvas should give rise to a pure mind that does not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas. They should abide in nothing to give rise to the mind. Subhuti, if there were a person with a body the size of Mount Sumeru, what do you think? Would this body be huge? Subhuti said, extremely huge, world-honored one. Why? The Buddha teaches that a body is not a body. Therefore, it is called a huge body. 11. The merit of unconditioned dharma is great. Subhuti, what do you think? If there were as many Ganges rivers as the grains of sand in the Ganges, wouldn't the amount of sand in all those Ganges rivers be great? Subhuti said, extremely great, world-honored one. Even if the Ganges rivers are innumerable, how much more so their grains of sand? Subhuti, let me now tell you the truth. If a good man or good woman fills as many trichilocosms as there are grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers with the 7 jewels and gives them away in charity, would these merits be great? Subhuti said, extremely great, world-honored one. The Buddha said to Subhuti, if a good man or good woman is able to study and follow even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra and teach it to others, their merits are far greater than the former's. 12. Revere the teaching as Buddha. Furthermore, Subhuti, wherever one teaches or recites even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra, that place should be venerated as a Buddha stupa by heavenly beings, human beings, and asuras in this world. How much more so is the case where one can completely read, recite, study, and follow this sutra. Subhuti, you should know that such a person has achieved the highest, rarest of accomplishments. Wherever the sutra is present, the Buddha or his revered disciples are also present. 13. Uphold the sutra accordingly. Then Subhuti addressed the Buddha, world-honored one, what should we call this sutra and how should we uphold it? The Buddha said to Subhuti, this sutra is called Diamond Prajna Paramita. In accord with this title, you should uphold the sutra. How is this so? Subhuti, the Buddha teaches that Prajna Paramita is not Prajna Paramita. Therefore, it is called Prajna Paramita. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have any dharma to teach? Subhuti said to the Buddha, world-honored one, the Tathagata has nothing to teach. Subhuti, what do you think? Are all the tiny particles contained in this trichilocosm great in number? Subhuti said, extremely great, world-honored one. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that tiny particles are not tiny particles, therefore they're called tiny particles. The Tathagata teaches that the worlds are not worlds, therefore they're called worlds. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of his 32 good marks? No, world-honored one. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of his 32 good marks. Why? The Tathagata teaches that the 32 good marks are not good marks. Therefore, they're called the 32 good marks. Subhuti, if a good man or good woman gives away their body and life as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, in charity, and if another one studies and follows even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra and teaches it to others, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. 14. Attain nirvana without attachment. Upon hearing this sutra, Subhuti was moved to tears, having deeply understood its meaning and significance. He said to the Buddha, how remarkable, world-honored one, that you have taught such a profound sutra. Even though I have long attained the wisdom, I have never heard such a teaching before. World-honored one, if someone who hears this sutra gives rise to pure faith and thus perceives the true nature of reality, we should know that this person has achieved the most extraordinary merit. World-honored one, the true nature of reality is not the true nature of reality. Therefore, it is what the Tathagata calls the true nature of reality. World-honored one, having just heard this sutra, I have no difficulty in believing, comprehending, studying, and following it. But in the ages to come, in the last 500 years of the Dharma-ending age, if there are sentient beings who hear this sutra and believe, comprehend, study, and follow it, they will be the foremost remarkable beings. Why? These beings do not have any notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, in a lifespan. How is this so? A self is not a self. The appearances of a person and a sentient being and a lifespan are also likewise not their appearances. Why? Those who relinquish all appearances and notions are called Buddhas. The Buddha said to Subhuti, so it is, so it is. You should know, if someone hears this sutra and is neither shocked, frightened, nor disturbed, this person is extremely remarkable. Why? Subhuti, the Tathagata says, the foremost paramita is not the foremost paramita. Therefore, it is called the foremost paramita. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that the tolerance paramita is not the tolerance paramita. Therefore, it is called tolerance paramita. Why? Subhuti, in a former lifetime, my body was mutilated by King Kalinga. I had no notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan at that time. Why? If I had any notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan, as my body was being dismembered limb after limb, I would have given rise to feelings of resentment and hatred. Subhuti, I also recall that for 500 lifetimes I was a rishi of tolerance. At that time, I was also free from the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan. Therefore, Subhuti, bodhisattvas should relinquish all appearances and notions in their resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. They should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas to give rise to a mind. They should give rise to a mind without abiding in anything. Any abidance of the mind is attachment. Therefore, the Buddha says, a bodhisattva should practice charity with a mind not abiding in any form. Subhuti, to benefit all sentient beings, a bodhisattva should practice charity in this way. The Tathagata teaches that all appearances and notions are not appearances and notions, and that all sentient beings are not sentient beings. Subhuti, what the Tathagata speaks is real, true, and as it is. His words are neither deceptive nor contradictory. Subhuti, the truth the Tathagata has attained is neither real nor unreal. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva practiced charity with the mind abiding in something, they're like people entering darkness and thus not seeing anything. Conversely, if a bodhisattva practices charity without abiding in anything, they're like people with eyes wide open, seeing all things clearly under the bright sunlight. Subhuti, if in a future time there are good men and good women who are able to read, recite, study, and follow this sutra, the Tathagata, with his Buddha wisdom, will clearly perceive and recognize each one of them, as they all achieve immeasurable and infinite merit. 15. Merits of upholding this sutra. Subhuti, if a good man or good woman offers their body in charity, as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, in the morning, and then does likewise at noon and in the evening, continuing thus for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas, and if someone else hears this sutra and gives rise to unwavering faith, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. How much more the merits of those who transcribe, read, recite, study, follow, and explain to others this sutra. In short, Subhuti, this sutra carries inconceivable, immeasurable, limitless merit, and the Tathagata teaches it to benefit aspirants of the great vehicle as well as aspirants of the supreme vehicle. The Tathagata knows and sees those who are able to read, recite, study, and follow and widely teach to others this sutra as they achieve innumerable, immeasurable, limitless, and inconceivable merit. They indeed carry on the work of the Tathagata in bringing beings to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Why? Subhuti, those who are content with inferior teachings have the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or lifespan. Such people are not able to hear, read, recite, study, and explain to others this sutra. Subhuti, wherever the sutra is present, all heavenly beings, human beings, and asuras in all the world should come and make offerings. Wherever the sutra is present, that place is a stupa. All should respectfully circumambulate, scattering fragrant flowers all around it. 16. Purgation of bad karma. Furthermore, Subhuti, suppose that there are good men and good women who read, recite, study, and follow this sutra, but are belittled by others. This is because of the previous bad karma, which would have otherwise caused them to be reborn in the wretched destinies. But now, by enduring the disparagement of others, this previous bad karma is eradicated, and they will eventually attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, I remember that countless kalpas ago, before the time of the Dipamkara Buddha, I encountered 84 millions of billions of Nayutas of Buddhas and made offerings to and served all of them without fail. However, if someone in the Dharma ending age can read, recite, study, and follow this sutra, this person's merits will be 100 times, even 100 trillion times greater than mine when I made offerings to all these Buddhas. In fact, no such comparison, either by calculation or analogy, is possible. Subhuti, if I fully revealed the merits obtained by good men and good women who read, recite, study, and follow this sutra during the Dharma ending age, some people, upon hearing it, might become hysterical and skeptical and dismiss it. Subhuti, you should know the underlying meaning of this sutra is inconceivable, and the rewards from upholding it are also inconceivable. 17. Ultimately, there is no self. Then Subhuti addressed the Buddha. World-honored one, if good men and good women resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, how should they abide and how should they subdue their minds? The Buddha said to Subhuti, good men and good women who resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi should bear this in mind. I will liberate all sentient beings by bringing them to nirvana. Yet, when all sentient beings have been liberated, not a single sentient being has actually attained nirvana. Why? Subhuti, if bodhisattvas have the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan, they are not bodhisattvas. How is this so? Subhuti, there is actually no resolve for the attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata studied under Dipamkara Buddha, did he obtain anything in order to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? No, world-honored one. As I understand the meaning of your teaching, when you studied under Dipamkara Buddha, there was nothing obtained for your attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti, so it is. There is indeed nothing that Tathagata obtained to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, if there were something obtained to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, Daipamkara Buddha would not have foretold you will attain Buddhahood in the future with the name Shakyamuni. It is precisely because there is actually nothing obtained to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi that Daipamkara Buddha foretold you will attain Buddhahood in the future with the name Shakyamuni. Why? This is because Tathagata means all dharmas as they really are. If someone says that Tathagata attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, there is in fact nothing obtained in the Buddha's attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi attained by the Tathagata is neither real nor unreal. Therefore, the Tathagata teaches that all dharmas are the Buddha dharmas. Subhuti, that so-called all dharmas are not dharmas at all. Therefore, they're called all dharmas. Subhuti, consider the example of a person with an immense perfect body. Subhuti said, the world-honored one, the person with the immense perfect body has no such body. Therefore, it is called an immense perfect body. Subhuti, so it is with the bodhisattva. If someone says, I will bring countless sentient beings to nirvana, they're not bodhisattvas. Why? Subhuti, there is actually no such thing called a bodhisattva. Therefore, the Buddha says, all dharmas are free from the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva says, I will adorn the world, making it a Buddha world, they're not bodhisattvas. Why? The Tathagata teaches that to adorn the world into a Buddha world is not to adorn the world. Therefore, it is called to adorn the world. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva realizes the dharma of non-self, the Tathagata says, this is really a bodhisattva. 18. All is seen in essence. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the physical eye? Yes, world honored one. The Tathagata has the physical eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Deva eye? Yes, world honored one. The Tathagata has the Deva eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the wisdom eye? Yes, world honored one. The Tathagata has the wisdom eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Dharma eye? Yes, world honored one. The Tathagata has the Dharma eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Buddha eye? Yes, world honored one. The Tathagata has the Buddha eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Buddha regard all the sand in the Ganges as sand? Yes, world honored one. The Buddha calls it sand. Subhuti, what do you think? If there were as many Ganges rivers as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and there were a Buddha world for each grain of sand in all those rivers, would the number of those Buddha worlds be great? Great indeed, world honored one. The Buddha said to Subhuti, with respect to each and every sentient being dwelling in all these Buddha worlds, the Tathagata is perfectly aware of their minds. Why? The Tathagata teaches that these minds are not minds, therefore they're called minds. How is it so, Subhuti? The mind of the past is ungraspable. The mind of the present is ungraspable. The mind of the future is ungraspable. 19. The way to benefit the world. Subhuti, what do you think? If a person were to fill a trichilocosm with the 7 jewels and give them away in charity, with such a deed would the merits obtained by this person be great? Yes, world honored one. The person would obtain extremely great merits from such a deed. Subhuti, if these merits were real, the Tathagata would not say the merits obtained are great. It is only because these merits are not substantial that the Tathagata says the merits obtained are great. 20. Transcend physical forms and attributes. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Buddha be recognized by means of his perfect physical body? No, world honored one. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of his perfect physical body. Why? The Tathagata teaches that a perfect physical body is not a perfect physical body, therefore it is called a perfect physical body. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of his perfect attributes? No, world honored one. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of his perfect attributes. Why? The Tathagata teaches the perfect attributes are not actually perfect attributes, therefore they're called perfect attributes. 21. There is no Dharma to teach. Subhuti, do not think that the Tathagata has the thought, I have something to teach. Do not think this way. Why? Whoever says the Tathagata teaches the Dharma slanders the Buddha, because they do not understand my teaching. Subhuti, to teach the Dharma is that there is no Dharma to teach, therefore it is called to teach the Dharma. Then, the wise Venerable Subhuti said to Buddha, world honored one, will there be sentient beings during the Dharma ending age who will generate faith upon hearing these teachings? The Buddha said, Subhuti, they are neither sentient beings nor non-sentient beings. Why? Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that sentient beings who go through many births are not sentient beings. Therefore, they're called sentient beings. 22. There is no Dharma to attain. Subhuti said to the Buddha, World-honored one, when the Buddha has attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, was nothing actually attained? The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti, so it is. As to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, I have not attained the slightest thing. This is why it is called Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Cultivate the good with a pure mind. Furthermore, Subhuti, all the dharmas are equal. None is superior or inferior. This is called Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. By cultivating all good without the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan, one attains Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that good is not good, therefore it is good. 24. The unsurpassed merit of teaching the Sutra. Subhuti, if a person accumulates mounds of the 7 jewels equivalent in size to all Mount Sumerus in the worlds of a trikilocosm and gives them away in charity, and another person reads, recites, studies, follows, and teaches this Prajnaparamita Sutra, even a mere 4-line verse to others, the former's merits will be less than 100th, even a 1,000,000th of the latter's. In fact, the latter's merits are so great that no comparison by calculation or analogy is possible. 25. Liberate without the notion of liberating. Subhuti, what do you think? You should not claim that the Tathagata has the thought, I will liberate sentient beings. Subhuti, do not think this way. Why? There are, in fact, no sentient beings the Tathagata liberates. If there were sentient beings liberated by the Tathagata, it would mean that the Tathagata has the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. Subhuti, when the Tathagata says I, there is actually no I. However, ordinary beings think that there is an I. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that ordinary beings are not ordinary beings. Therefore, they're called ordinary beings. 26. Dharma body is formless. Subhuti, what do you think? Can one recognize the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks? Subhuti said, yes. Yes, one can recognize the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks. The Buddha said, Subhuti, if one recognizes the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks, a wheel-turning sage king would be a Tathagata. Subhuti said to the Buddha, World-honored one, as I understand the meaning of what you've said, one should not recognize the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks. Then the world-honored one spoke this verse. Those who see me in form or seek me through sound are on a mistaken path. They do not see the Tathagata. 27. Attainment without nihilistic views. Subhuti, if you think the Tathagata attains Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi without the perfection of all attributes, Subhuti, do not think this way, that the Tathagata attains Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi without the perfection of all attributes. Subhuti, if you think this way, those who resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi would assert the annihilation of dharmas. So, do not think this way. Why? Those who resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi do not assert the annihilation of the dharmas. 28. Neither accumulate nor cling to merit. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva were to fill the worlds, as many as grains of sand in the Ganges, with the 7 jewels and give them away in charity, and another bodhisattva were to attain the forbearance of the selfless nature of all dharmas, the merits of this bodhisattva would exceed the former's. Why? Subhuti, this is because bodhisattvas do not accumulate merits. Subhuti said to the Buddha, World-honored one, why is it that bodhisattvas do not accumulate merits? Subhuti, the bodhisattvas do not cling to the merits they generate. Therefore, I say they do not accumulate merits. 29. Deportment is always serene. Subhuti, whoever says that the Tathagata comes, goes, sits, or lies down does not understand the meaning of my teaching. Why? The thus come one neither comes nor goes. Therefore, they are called the Tathagata. 30. One wholeness in nature. Subhuti, what do you think? If a good man or good woman were to take all the worlds of trikilocosm and crush them into tiny particles, wouldn't these particles be numerous? Subhuti said, extremely numerous, world-honored one. Why? If these tiny particles had real existence, the Buddha would not call them tiny particles. How is it so? The Buddha teaches that tiny particles are not tiny particles. Therefore, they're called tiny particles. World-honored one. That which the Tathagata calls all the worlds of a trikilocosm are not actually worlds. Therefore, they're called worlds. Why? To the extent, if these worlds really exist, they exist as one wholeness. The Tathagata teaches of one wholeness is not one wholeness. Therefore, it is called one wholeness. Subhuti, one wholeness is actually ineffable. But ordinary beings do cling to such a notion. 31. Know and practice without attachment. Subhuti, Say someone claims that the Buddha teaches the views of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan. What do you think, Subhuti? Has this person understood the meaning of my teaching? No, World Honored One, this person has not understood the meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Why? The World Honored One teaches that the views of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan are not the views of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan. Therefore, they're called the views of a self, a person, a sentient being, a lifespan. Subhuti, those who resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Bodhi should know, perceive, believe, understand all dharmas just as they are without attaching to any dharma attributes. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that dharma attributes are not dharma attributes, therefore they're called dharma attributes. 32. All dharmas are illusions. Subhuti, if a person were to fill countless worlds with the 7 jewels and give them away in charity, and if a good man or good woman, having made the bodhisattva resolve, reads, recites, studies, follows, and expounds to others this sutra, even a mere 4-line verse, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. How should one expound to others without attachment, abiding in stillness and suchness? Why? All conditioned dharmas are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow. Like dew or a flash of lightning, thus shall they be perceived. With this, the Buddha concluded the sutra. The elder Subhuti and other bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, heavenly and human beings, asuras, and other beings of this world, having heard the Buddha, were all filled with immense joy. They accepted and followed the teaching faithfully. End of the Diamond Prajna Paramita Sutra. Inequity dispelling mantra of the 7 Buddhas. Lipo lipo di, chehe chehe di, twolo nidi nehi ladi pili nidi moha chedi zingli chandi sapoha. Lipo lipo di, chehe chehe di, twolo nidi nehi ladi pili nidi moha chedi zingli chandi sapoha. Lipo lipo di, chehe chehe di, twolo nidi nehi ladi pili nidi moha chedi zingli chandi sapoha. Praise of the Diamond Sutra. Extinguish doubts and generate faith. Relinquish form and transcend principle. Instantly renounce attachment to all beings and dharmas to understand true emptiness. The flavor of prajna is sublime. Thoroughly understand the 4-line verse. Its merits are inexpressible. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. May all beings of the 4 births and in the 9 realms ascend to the wondrous world of the Lotus Treasury. May those in the 8 woeful states and 3 wretched destinies flow into the sea of Vairocana. 3 refuges. I take refuge in the Buddha. May each and every sentient being understand the Great Way profoundly and bring forth the Bodhi mind. I take refuge in the Dharma. May each and every sentient being deeply enter the Sutra Treasury and have wisdom vast as the sea. I take refuge in the Sangha. May each and every sentient being form together a great assembly, one and all in harmony. Dedication of the merits. What a wonderful blessing to recite this sutra. Let us dedicate the superb and limitless merits. May all floundering and struggling sentient beings soon reach the Buddha land of infinite light. Buddhas of the past, present, and future in the 10 directions. All bodhisattvas and mahasattvas. Maha Prajna Paramita. Dedication of the merits. May I remove all 3 obstructions and all afflictions. May I have the wisdom to perceive the truth. May all beings be free of transgression and suffering. I vow to practice the Bodhisattva way, life after life.